Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku was Momo's personal bodyguard and she fell in love with him, part 2. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, 29 Tigers, link is in the description, also subscribe to our channel and like this video, so let's begin the video. Villain team goes inside your building and sets up, hero team. You have 5 minutes to prepare. All Might says over the loudspeaker. Izuku and Iida are currently in a building opposite of the building they will raid. Midoriya, do you have a plan? It seems that you have been thinking of one for a while. Iida says. Yeah, I have a plan. Once we get inside, Bakugo might try and attack me, I'll keep him occupied and you run upstairs and try to find the bomb. Once I finish with Bakugo, I'll join you, I'll distract Todoroki and you make a run for the bomb. Izuku says. Understood. Iida says. Hero team time's up, enters the building. All Might says. Well, let's move out. Iida. Izuku jumps off the building and waits for Iida. Observation room. Young Yaoi Rozu, please come here. All Might says and motions for Momo to walk over to him. Yes, All Might, what is it? Momo asks. Put this in your ear. All Might says and hands her an earpiece. What is this? Momo asks. It's an earpiece, if you would want to wear it for this match, trust me. All Might says. Okay. Momo says and puts it in and watches the TV. Back to the battle. Ready to move? Izuku asks and looks at Iida. Yes, Midoriya, let's move in. Iida says. They walk in and soon Izuku dodges an attack from Bakugo. Looks like everything is going according to plan. Izuku thinks to himself. Iida, go, I'll hold him off and join you once I'm done. Izuku yells. Good luck, Midoriya. Iida says and runs up the stairs. Ready to fight? Bakugo asks. I am Kaken. Izuku says and rushes him. He lands a few quick punches and kicks on Bakugo. Bakugo jumps back and gets some distance. You sure have grown up in Izuku. Bakugo says and wipes his face. Well, I had to for my job. Izuku says and smiles. You're a bodyguard to Momo Yaoi Rozu, is there something else going on? Bakugo asks. Izuku blushes and looks at the floor. No, but I wish there was. He says. Bakugo looks at him shocked and starts to laugh. I'm sorry, Izuku, I'm not laughing at you, you really have grown up. Look man, tell her how you feel, she might feel the same way. Well, enough about that, let's get on with the fight. Bakugo says and gets into a battle stance. Right, let's go, Kaken. Izuku says. They rush each other and start to clash, landing punches and kicks on each other. Izuku dodges one of Bakugo's attacks and puts tape on his leg. He then makes a claw with chains on it and wraps it around him and then pulls it off of him and Bakugo starts to spin like a top. Once he stops spinning, Bakugo falls to the floor looking like a mummy. Well, that was fun, Kaken, I have to go. Izuku says and runs off. Midoriya, it's me, I found the bomb on the 5th floor. Iida says. Copy that, I'm on my way, stay hidden until I get there and then we will move on with the plan. Izuku says. Understood. Iida says and stays hidden and observes Todoroki. This is perfect, just perfect. I can beat this dog to a pulp and my dearest Momo will fall for me and the dog will probably be fired for losing to me. Todoroki says, laughing. Izuku reaches Iida and looks into the room where Todoroki is. He hasn't noticed that Bakugo has been defeated or has noticed us. Izuku whispers. Yes, it's like he is in his own world. Iida says. Iida, I'll run in first and I'll give you a signal so you can run in and touch the bomb. Izuku says. Iida nods. Izuku takes a few deep breaths before running into the room. Todoroki. Izuku yells and Todoroki turns around and smiles. Well, look what we have here. A dog that has strayed too far from its master's side. Todoroki says with a huge smirk on his face. Izuku growls at him. Wow, you really are a dog, growing like that, your master must be an idiot, for he gets cut off as a right hook hits him square in the jaw. Don't you dare speak of Lady Momo like that. Izuku yells. You will for that. Todoroki yells as he wipes blood away from his mouth. He uses his ice quirk to send a wave of ice at Izuku. Izuku dodges all of his attacks. Izuku gets close to Todoroki and starts fighting in hand-to-hand combat. I expected more from the son of Endeavor. Izuku says. Fuck you, Todoroki yells and tries to hit Izuku. Izuku dodges and grabs Todoroki's arm and tosses him over his head. Todoroki gets up slowly and looks at Izuku. Once I win this, I'll make sure to arrange a marriage between me and Momo, Todoroki says and laughs. Izuku grows and looks at Todoroki and is letting his killing intent flow out. Bastard, Lady Momo isn't an item for you to plan her future, she can make her own choices and that includes who she marries. Izuku lunges at Todoroki and puts him in a chokehold. I love Momo Yaoi Rozu with all my heart, yes, me, a servant to the Yaoi Rozu family, is in love with his master. Izuku yells. Iida now. Izuku says, and Iida runs out and taps the bomb. Hero team wins, All Might yells. Observation room. Momo is currently shocked at what she just heard and is holding Kahaku tightly. She soon starts to cry tears of joy. Jiro sees that she's crying and walks over to her. Momo, are you okay? Jiro asks and puts a hand on Momo's shoulder. Momo turns around and faces her. I'm fine, Jiro, you were right, my Zuzu loves me just as I love him. Momo says and wipes tears off her face. Jiro smiles and gives a thumbs up to All Might and he returns it. Jiro holds Kahaku for me, I want to surprise Zuzu. Momo says. Izuku and the other three walk into the room. Izuku is soon tackled to the floor by Momo. Momo, is everything okay? Izuku asks as he can feel and hear Momo crying. Yes Zuzu, everything is fine. Momo says and looks into Izuku's eyes and smiles. Then why are you crying? Izuku asks. They are tears of joy. Momo says. What do you mean by that? Izuku asks. He only gets a kiss on the lips as a reply. I love you too Zuzu, I have always loved you. Momo says and smiles. Izuku blushes and starts to steam out of his ears. How did you find out? Izuku asks nervously. All Might gave me an earpiece and I listened to the whole match. Momo says. I have wanted to tell you for so long, but she is cut off when Izuku kisses her. That doesn't matter now Momo, we are together now and that's all that counts. Izuku says and smiles. Time skip locker room. Wow Midoriya, you are officially dating the most beautiful girl in the class, how do you feel? Shoji asks. To be honest, I'm really nervous, she has been my mistress since I was 10, I'm glad she feels the same way, but I'm scared of how her parents will react. Izuku says. I'm sure that if you two explain, Shoji is cut off when Mineta calls all the guys. Hey guys, look, I found the gateway to heaven, beyond this hole is the promised land, Mina's ass, Uraraka's boobs, and Mineta is cut off when he feels Izuku's hand around his throat. I warned you, now go do your peeping in hell. Izuku yells and tosses Mineta to a row of lockers with 10% of his power and he goes through them and hits the wall, leaving a Mineta-shaped hole in it. Izuku, Momo, and Kahaku are currently on their way back to Yaoi Rozu Manor. Momo looks over at Izuku and smiles, she rests her head on his shoulder. I love you so much Zuzu. She says. I love you too Momo. Izuku says and kisses her head. As Izuku is driving, a little girl with white hair and a horn on the right side of her head runs out into the street. Izuku hits the brakes of the car and puts the car in park and gets out. He walks over to the girl and gets down to her eye level. Hey there little one, are you okay? You have a lot of bandages on you. Izuku says. The girl runs into Izuku's arms and buries her face in his chest. Don't let him take it please mister. She says and starts to cry. Don't let who take you? Izuku asks and soon looks up and sees a man with a plague doctor mask come out of the alley. I'm sorry sir, my daughter got away from me. He says. Izuku gets a sick feeling in his stomach and stands up, holding Eri in his arms. If she's your daughter, why is so scared of you and covered in bandages? Izuku asks. Well you see we were playing tag and she fell. The man says. Izuku walks over to the car, opens the door and hands Eri to Momo. Take her and drive to the manor, don't look back. Izuku says. Zuzu, what's going on? Momo asks, worried. That's Kai Chisaki, leader of the 8 precepts of death. Izuku says. Momo's eyes go wide and she nods. Izuku closes the door and walks over to Kai. Drop the act overhaul. Izuku says as the car speeds off. Overhaul scuffs, you know me and yet you still want to take me on. Once I'm done with you I'll find Eri and maybe have some fun with that vixen of yours. He says and smiles. Izuku is growing at what he just said and powers up Spirit and Ofa at 25%. Hey overhaul. Izuku yells and looks at him with eyes that can kill. What? Overhaul yells. Izuku quickly runs over to him and delivers a roundhouse kick to his head. Know your place, Izuku yells as he sees Overhaul fly away, leaving a twinkle effect. Time to get home. Izuku says and starts walking to the manor. Yaoi Rozu Manor. Izuku walks through the door and makes his way to the living room. He sees Momo, Ayako, Noritashi, Eri petting Kahaku and Jack. Oh, good, you're all here. Izuku says and walks in and bows quickly to Ayako and Noritashi. Izuku, is it true that you saved this girl from Overhaul? Noritashi asks. Yes, master. Izuku says and sits on the couch in between Momo and Eri. Wow, who would have thought that the leader of one of the most notorious Yakuza gangs would be defeated by a teen? Jack says. If memory serves, that teen saved you, as a child. Noritashi says laughing. Jack grumbles at the memory. Well anyways, we have something to tell you. Momo says and looks at her parents and Jack and then at Izuku and smiles. Izuku smiles back and reaches his hand over to Momo, and Momo grabs it. "We are a couple," Izuku says. There is silence in the room, and Izuku is nervous. "I know that you must think I have betrayed you," but Izuku is cut off when the three adults yell finally in unison. "Wait, you're not angry at Zuzu?" Momo asks. "No, we aren't, we have known that both of you have had feelings for each other for a while," Ayako says. "On the day we first met Izuku, I told Ayako that if Momo wanted to be with her prince in shining armor, I wouldn't stand in the way of her happiness," Jack says. Momo has tears in her eyes and runs over to her parents and hugs them. "Thank you for approving of our relationship," Momo says. "You're welcome, Momo," Noritashi says and smiles. "Now what are you going to do with the girl?" Ayako asks. Izuku looks at Momo and her parents and smiles. "I would like to adopt her, with your permission," Izuku says and pats Yuri's head. Yuri looks at him and smiles. "Are you going to be Papa?" she asks, and Izuku nods. She then points to Momo. "Mama?" she asks, and Momo's heart melts. "Yes, Yuri," she says and smiles. Ayako squeals in excitement. "Yes, I have a grandbaby, I'm going to spoil her," Ayako says as she walks over to Yuri and picks her up and hugs her. "I can't wait for more," she says and smiles. At her words, Momo and Izuku turn into a blushing mess with steam coming out of their ears. Noritashi clears his throat and gets their attention. "I am happy to have a grandchild, I don't want any more so soon, so if you two ever engage in such activities, please use protection," Noritashi says. "Yes, father," Momo says. "I do have a question, what if someone comes and tries to arrange a marriage between me and their son?" Momo asks. Izuku tenses up, remembering what Todoroki said. "We will politely decline the offer and tell them you are currently seeing someone," Noritashi says. "Why do you ask?" Ayako asks. "Do you remember what Izuku told you about the boy at my party?" Momo asked. "Yes," Noritashi says. "Well, he's in our class, and today we had heroics class, he was on the villains team and Izuku was on the hero team. Long story short, he told Izuku that when he beat him that I would fall for him and he would arrange a marriage between me and him." Momo says the last part in disgust. "Well, don't worry, we won't allow it," Ayako says. Momo smiles and hugs her and Iri. "Mama, I'm hungry," Iri says. "Okay, little one, let's get you some food and tomorrow you and grandma will go shopping with grandpa," Ayako says and smiles as she looks at Noritashi with the "I'm going to break your wallet" look. "I would like all of you to meet me in the music room in 30 minutes please," Izuku says and gets up on the couch. "Okay Zuzu, but why?" Momo asks. "You will see when you get there," Izuku says and smiles. He kisses Momo and bows to Noritashi and Ayako. He then walks out of the living room and walks to the music room. Time skip 30 minutes. Noritashi, Ayako, Jack, Kahaku and Iri, now dressed in light blue dress with a flower pattern that Momo made for her, walk into the room. They see Izuku sitting in a chair with a Spanish guitar in his hand and 3 chairs in front of him. "Zuzu, what's this all about?" Momo asks. "Well, I have a song I wrote for you if we ever got together and I want to sing it," Izuku says and smiles. They take their seats. Izuku strums the guitar and soon starts singing. "What fault do I have, my love? Of falling in love with you? Of passing so many nights almost without sleep? Perhaps you think that I'm crazy. I confirm that I am indeed. It's the brightness in your eyes, baby, that makes me suffer. And for my calls at dawn, blame the heart for 1,000 desperate words. Don't think that it's me. Don't blame me. I'm only a puppet without control of its senses. Don't blame me, baby. I'm only a traveler with a destination of happiness. Next to you, baby. I expressed my sadness. A couple glasses of ron. And it relieves me just a little, baby. But not like your love. And for my calls at dawn, blame the heart for 1,000 desperate words. Don't think that it's me. Don't blame me. I'm only a puppet without control of its senses. Don't blame me, baby. I'm only a traveler with a destination to be happy. Next to you, baby. Whoa. Don't blame me. I'm only a puppet without control of its senses. Don't blame me, baby. I'm only a traveler with a destination to be happy. Don't blame me, oh baby. I'm only a puppet without control of its senses. Don't blame me, my baby, oh baby. I'm just a traveler with a destination to be happy. Don't blame me, my baby. Next to you, baby, yeah. Don't blame me, my girl, oh. Yeah." Izuku stops playing and looks at Momo, who is crying tears of joy. He gets up and walks over to her and kisses her head. "I love you, Momo Yaoi Rozu," Izuku says. Momo kisses him back. "I love you too, Izuku Midoriya," she says and smiles. It's been a few days since Izuku and Momo became a couple. They are both very happy with each other and even more happy that they have a daughter. Today is Saturday and Izuku wants to take advantage of the weekend to see if he and Momo can go on their first date. Izuku walks to Momo's room and knocks on the door. "I'll get it, mama," he hears Eri say, and the door opens. Eri's eyes light up when she sees Izuku standing there. "Hi papa," she says and hugs his leg. "Hey there sweetie," Izuku says and picks her up and walks into the room. "Hey Zuzu, how are you?" Momo asks. "I'm good, how about you?" Izuku asks. "I'm good too," she says. Izuku sits on her bed and puts Eri in his lap. "Momo, I was thinking that maybe you and I can go out on our first date tonight," Izuku says and looks at Momo. "Really, our first date, Zuzu?" she asks happily. "Yeah, I mean we have to go on a date sooner or later," Izuku says. "So where would we go?" Momo asks. "Well, we could go to dinner or the movies," Izuku says. "I think dinner would be nice for a first date," Momo says. "Mama, Papa, will I come with you?" Eri asks curiously. "No, sorry pumpkin, only me and Papa will go," Momo says. "Oh, okay." Eri is a little sad. "But you can hang out with Grandma, Grandpa, Kahaku, and Uncle Jack," Izuku says. Eri smiles and runs out of the room to her grandparents. Momo moves closer to Izuku and places her head on his shoulder. "Zuzu, when are we going to introduce her to Jiro and Bakugo?" Momo asks. "I guess I could send an email to the principal and ask him if we could bring her to school on Monday," Izuku says with a smile. "That would be wonderful, Zuzu, she can meet the entire class," Momo says happily. "Yeah, but I'm worried about Eri meeting Todoroki and that perverted grape," Izuku says. Momo then gets a worried look on her face. "I know, Zuzu, but if they try to hurt or corrupt our wonderful daughter, I want you to hurt them," Momo says. "I would do it to anyone who would hurt you or her," Izuku says and kisses Momo. Momo kisses him back and smiles. "I love you so much, Zuzu," Momo says. "I love you more, Momo," Izuku says and holds Momo closer to him. "So where are you going to take me for dinner?" Momo asks. "Well, I was thinking American barbecue or Indian," Izuku says. "Both sound yummy, so are we taking the Corvette?" Momo asks. "No, I was thinking about using the motorcycle," Izuku says. "Really, I have never been on it, this will be the best date ever," Momo sequels happily. Izuku laughs a little. "You're so cute when you're excited," Izuku says and pats her head. Momo just smiles and "You're always so handsome," Momo says and smiles at Izuku's affection towards her. Time skip, later the night. "You two go have fun on your date and try to be back by 11 p.m. Noritashi says. "Or you can get a hotel and come back tomorrow morning," Ayako says with a smirk on her face. Momo and Izuku only blush madly and you could see a pink smoke coming out of their heads. "What does Grandma mean by that?" Eri asks. "Nothing, my precious granddaughter, Grandma is just being silly," Noritashi says. Ayako only laughs at Momo's and Izuku's reaction. "Mother, and you're not funny," Momo says. "Well, I think I am, besides your reactions are so cute," Ayako says and smiles. "Well, I think we should be going," Izuku says and gets on the motorcycle and turns it on. Momo gets on and wraps her arms around his waist. "Wow, his abs are amazing," Momo thinks to herself. Izuku drives off to the restaurant. At the restaurant. "Table for two please," Izuku says to the host. The host simply nods. "Of course sir, right this way please," he says and walks Izuku and Momo to their table. "The food in this place smells delicious," Momo says as she holds his hand as they walk to the table. "I read some reviews of this place, they say the food tastes better than it smells," Izuku says. "It better be or you're sleeping outside on the driveway," Momo says sweetly. Izuku tenses up. "Yes ma'am," Izuku says. Momo laughs a little. They reach their table and take their seats. The hot one walks away and leaves Momo and Izuku with their menus. "All this food sounds delicious, how can I pick just one entree?" Momo asks rhetorically. Izuku just snickers. "I think I should have just taken you to an all-you-can-eat buffet," Izuku says. Momo just pouts cutely. "You're so mean, Zuzu, you know I eat a lot because of my quirk," Momo said while looking away from him. "I'm just joking about my beautiful raven," Izuku says. Momo looks at him. "Why did you call me a beautiful raven?" Momo asks curiously. "Because you have beautiful raven black hair," Izuku says. Time skip. After dinner, Izuku and Momo go to a nearby beach to have a moonlight walk. Hey Zuzu, about what my mom said, why don't we do it?" Momo says as they walk along the shoreline as the moonlight reflects off the water and the waves gently crash next to them. Izuku looks over to her, puzzled. "Why do I say that, Momo?" Izuku asks. Well, you see, it's late at night and I think it would be nice to share a bed with you. Momo says without putting thought into her words. Izuku blushes at her words and looks over at her. What did you say, Momo? Izuku stutters. I said that I would like to share a bed with you. Momo says, and then it hits her and then she starts to blush madly. I didn't mean it like that. Momo says. I know, it's just that we just started dating, so I wanted to make sure you knew what you were talking about. Izuku says. I know, Zuzu, so would you like to do it? Momo asks. Sure, Momo, I wouldn't mind. Izuku says and smiles. Really? Momo asks. Yeah, really. Izuku says. Should we get going? Izuku asks as he looks at his watch and it reads 11:30 p.m. Yeah, let's go, Zuzu. Momo says happily. They make their way to the motorcycle and Izuku drives off to a hotel. They reach the hotel around 11:40 and check in. Once they make it to their room, Momo and Izuku lay in the bed and watch some TV. Momo stops and pulls back and a very thin line of saliva connects them. She looks at Izuku with love in her eyes. What if I don't want to stop? What if I want to go to the next level? Momo says a bit seductively. Izuku widens his eyes, blushes, and blinks 3 times at what he just heard. Momo, you know what you just said, right? Izuku asks, shocked. Momo bites her lower lip and nods as she runs a hand on Izuku's upper body. Momo, please listen, I would like to go to the next level with you, but not right now. I don't want you to do anything you would regret. Izuku says. Momo cups his cheeks and leans closer to him. Zuzu, I promise I won't regret it. I love you with all my heart. Momo say. Hey Zuzu, did we bring Eri with us today? Momo asks as she gets dressed in the room her and Izuku share. Yeah, he said it was fine. He even said he would get her a uniform. We just need to stop by his office to get it. Izuku calls out from the shower. You know, we are lucky my mom gave me birth control as well, but I wouldn't mind having your kid, Zuzu. Momo says. Do you really mean that? Izuku asks. Yeah, I do, like I said Saturday, I love you, Zuzu, with all my heart. Momo says and sits on the bed. Izuku comes out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his waist. Momo licks her lips like a lioness about to pounce on its prey. You look so sexy, Zuzu, I wish I could ride you right now. Mom says just fly. Well, I'm going to get dressed, you and Eri can go downstairs for breakfast. Izuku says and walks over to his closest friend. Momo gets up for the bed and kisses Izuku passionately. Okay, but don't take too long, Zuzu. She says playfully. Izuku just nods and gets dressed as soon as Momo leaves the room. I wonder why I have a bad feeling about today. Izuku thinks to himself as he grabs his school bag and walks out of the room. He makes his way downstairs and sees Momo, Eri, and Momo's parents sitting at the table eating breakfast. Good morning. Izuku says to everyone at the table. Good morning, Izuku, so I'm guessing you and Momo didn't have any personal time last night since she is walking normally. Ayako says with a grin and Izuku chokes on his coffee. Mother. Momo screams, blushing madly at the memory of her walking with a bit of a limp after the night of passion she and Izuku shared. What did I do, sweetie? Ayako asks with head tilt, acting innocently. You know what? Noritashi says, pinching the bridge of his nose. What? It looked like they both enjoyed the personal time they had Saturday. Ayako says with a smirk. Momo and Izuku only blush at Ayako's antics. I think we should get ready to leave for school or we will be late. Izuku says and grabs his and Momo's school bags and walks out to the car. Kahaku follows Izuku. Master, are you finally going to introduce little Eri to the class? Yeah, I just hope that the grape and the peppermint don't try anything. Izuku says as he unlocks the doors and puts their stuff down and helps Kahaku get in. Izuku gets in and starts the car and waits for Momo and Eri. Now we just wait for Momo and Eri and then we can go to school. Izuku says. Well, looks like we didn't have to wait long, master, here they come. Kahaku says with a smile. Good. Izuku says and watches as mom puts Eri in the car. Ready to go? Izuku asks. Yeah, let's go, Zuzu. Momo says and kisses Izuku. Izuku kisses her back and drives off to UA. Scene change. UA outside class 1A. Are you ready to meet our friends? Momo and Izuku ask in unison. Eri is petting Kahaku and looks up at her parents and smiles. Yes, mommy and daddy, I'm very excited. I can't wait to meet Aunt Jiro and Uncle Bakugo. Eri says happily. Izuku and Momo only laugh at their daughter's happy mood. Well, let's go inside. Momo says as she picks her up and Izuku picks up Kahaku. They walk into the class. Shut the hell up, Four Eyes, Bakugo yells. Bakugo, you have to learn some respect. Ida yells back. Why in the fuck should I? Bakugo yells. Cack and Izuku yells, really pissed off. What do? He cuts himself off when he sees Izuku's face and Momo holding a little kid. Hey Izuku, who's the little girl? Bakugo asks, a little nervous. Our adoptive daughter. Momo says, all of a sudden a grape starts yelling at the top of his lungs. Midoriya, you lucky bastard, you got Yaoi Rozu pregnant before you tell me how was the SE Mineta gets cut off when his face meets a fist of green spiritual energy and green and black lighting. He goes crashing through the building and goes flying off. She said adoptive, you perverted grape, Izuku yells. Everyone just sweat drops and looks at the Mineta holes in the walls and then looks over at Izuku. Momo clears her throat and starts to talk. Anyway, her name is Eri and she has been wanting to meet all of you, especially her Aunt Jiro and Uncle Bakugo. Momo says and sits down at her desk and puts Eri on her lap. Say hi, Eri. Momo says to Eri and smiles down at her. Hi. Eri says with a huge smile on her face and waves to the class. Everyone except Todoroki looks at her and smiles. So pure. They all think to themselves. Bakugo walks over to Eri and smiles as he gets down to her eye level. Hey there, Eri, I'm your Uncle Bakugo, look at this. Bakugo says and makes little explosions in his hand. Eri looks in amazement, wow, Uncle Bakugo, that's cool. Eri is full of joy. Soon everyone from the class except Mineta and Todoroki introduces themselves to little Eri. Alright, settle down all of you, we have something important to do today. Aizawa says as he walks into the class. He stops at the podium and looks over at Eri. Midoriya, Yaoi Rozu, is that your adoptive daughter? Aizawa asks. Yes, sensei. They say in unison. Okay, well, Nezu wanted me to give you two things. He says and tosses a package to Izuku and Izuku catches it. What is it? Momo asks. A UA school uniform and PE uniform in her size. Aizawa replies. Iida raises his hand, excuse me sir, you said that there was something important that we needed to do today. Iida says. Yes, today all of you will make a decision that will impact the rest of your high school lives. Aizawa says. What could it be? It sounds really important. Wana thinks at the same time. You will be choosing your class president. Aizawa says. Thank God, something normal. Wana thinks. I'm the only one out of you extras worthy of such a position. Bakugo yells, no guys, pick me, I'll make it fun. Mina yells. And no P, pick me, Mineta says as he crawls his way back into the room. Everyone, since there is only one way to choose, by voting. Iida says. You guys do whatever you just pick before I wake up from my nap, Aizawa says and falls asleep in his sleeping bag. Izuku 10. Momo 6. Iida 1. Mina 2. Everyone else 0. Okay, Midoriya is your class president and Yaoi Rozu is your vice president, glad that's out of the way. Aizawa says. Wait, I can't be president, I think it should be Momo as president and me vice president. Izuku says. Momo looks over at Izuku and facepalms, then she gets an idea. Zuzu, lean closer. Momo says and Izuku is confused but compiles. You should be president, I mean you of all people should know that I like it when a man takes control, Momo whispers in Izuku's ear. Okay, I'll be president, guys. Izuku laughs a little nervously and rubs the back of his head. What did she say to him? Wana thinks in unison. Lunch time. Izuku, Momo and Eri are currently eating lunch at a table with some of the students from class 11A. So how did you two meet this cute little thing? Mina asks while doing a small bump on Eri's nose, making the little girl laugh in joy. Well, we were on our way home after the day of battle training and then we saw her run into the streets. I slammed on the brakes and walked out to her. Long story short, I saved her from overhauling the leader of the 8 precepts of death. Izuku says with a smile. He then looks at the group of his classmates that are sitting with him. What? He asks. That was you, they ask in shock. Yeah, it was, what of it? Izuku asks with a raised eyebrow. He landed in the middle of Tartarus for one and no one knew how. Bakugo yells. Well, now you know. Momo said with a smile. The group just sweet drops. They are crazy, let's stay on their good sides. They all think at the same time. So what do you think we have planned for hero class this afternoon? Mina asks. I don't know, maybe some more training of some sort or something. Momo says. I hope it's more battle training, I would love to put the candy cane and grape in their places. Izuku says and looks over at Shoto. Shoto locks eyes with Izuku and starts to let off some steam from his eye side and then flicks Izuku off. Izuku smiles and does the same thing but with a spirit hand and then goes back to eating but then gets a cold shiver down his spine. He turns his head to see Momo staring at him. Momo looks at Izuku with "Are you done behaving like a child" face. What, babe, he started it. Izuku says. I know, but you're better than him, so don't sink to his level. Momo says and then kisses Izuku. Okay, I'm sorry. Izuku says. Apology accepted by Zuzu. Momo says happily and puts her head on Izuku's shoulder and closes her eyes. Ring, ring, ring. All of a sudden an alarm goes off. Attention, attention, this is a level 3 security breach. I repeat, this is a level 3 security breach. Please evaluate in an orderly fashion. The automated voice says. What the hell is a level 3 security breach? Izuku asks a third-year student sitting behind his group. It means villains are attacking the school. She shouts. Soon the whole cafeteria is in a panic and students are screaming and running trying to get out. Izuku activates his suit and gets in a fighting stance in front of Momo. Damn it, if Aizawa didn't have Kahaku, I could have her teleport Momo and Eri back to the manor. Izuku grumbles. Guys, keep Momo and Eri safe. I'm going to check out the situation. Izuku says and runs off to the window. Once he reaches the window, he growls when he sees that it's just the press. I'm going to have a word with Nezu, but first I need to calm everyone down. Izuku thinks to himself. He walks away from the window, takes a deep breath and then lets out a medium-sized roar to get everyone's attention. Everyone stops and turns their heads to see Izuku deactivating his mask. Calm down, it's just the press, the teachers are taking care of it. He yells. He starts walking towards the exit pissed off and his suit starts to give the illusion of fur blowing in the wind. Zuzu, where are you going? Momo asks even though she already knows. To talk to the principal, he has some explaining to do. Izuku says as his mask reactivates. The students get out of his way, picking up on the killer intent that's flowing out of him. Don't do anything stupid. Momo yells. I won't. Izuku yells back and starts to walk to Nexus' office. Nezu is in his office working on some paperwork when his office phone goes off. Hello. Nezu says. Sir, there's been an incident, please come outside. Mick says. Nezu gets cut off when his office door is slammed open and he sees a very angry Izuku in the doorway. I'll be there soon. Nezu says as calmly as possible and hangs up the phone. Young Midoriya what be Nezu starts to say but is cut off by Izuku. Cut the bullshit, you know why I'm here. Izuku yells. Nezu just sweet drops and chuckles nervously. Oh boy, why did I think that would work? Nezu asks himself. When my employers asked for you to allow me to do a check of your security system, you told them that it wasn't needed because you have one of best ones on the market today, and look what happened. Izuku yells and walks over to Nezu's desk and slams his hands on it, slightly cracking it. Well yes, this accident was currently a shock to us, but please do be assured that the matter is being handled. Nezu says while sweating bullets. Izuku growls and looks at Nezu and claws at the tip of his fingers. My employers will be notified of this and be lucky that it was just the press. Izuku says and walks out of the Nexus office, slamming the door shut. Nezu lets out a sigh of relief. I should be lucky he has some self-control when he's angry, or I might end up like that little student from 1A. Nezu says. Want a classroom? Man, did you guys see the look on Midoriya's face? It looked like he was out for blood. Mina says. Yeah, he even scared me. Bakugo says, slightly shivering at the memory of his friend's face and what Izuku did to him on the first day of school. He takes his job as Momo's bodyguard very seriously, you and everyone else should know that. Diro says, laughing slightly at the memories of Izuku hurting them. After being on the receiving end of that, I don't want to be on his bad side. Bakugo says. I just hope he doesn't do anything stupid. Momo says as she brushes Yuri's hair. Izuku opens the door, walks over to his desk and sits down. Hi daddy. Yuri says and gets off Momo's lap and goes to Izuku. Izuku smiles and picks her up. Hey sweetheart. Izuku says and kisses her head. She just giggles and looks up at him smiling. Mom walks over to him and kisses him. Hey Zuzu, so how was your talk with the principal? Momo asks. It went well and don't worry, I didn't do anything stupid. Izuku says and kisses her back. I did tell him that I'll tell your parents about what happened. Izuku says. Momo sighs and puts her forehead in the palm of one of her hands and says, of course you will. Izuku just laughs a little and looks out the window. I don't know why, but I can't shake this feeling that something bad is going to happen. He thinks to himself. Soon the doors open and Kahaku is still in Izawa's arms. Master, help me please. She calls out. Izuku sighs heavily. Mr. Izawa, please let Kahaku go, she is here to help me protect Momo. Izuku says. Alright, sorry. Izawa says and he lets her go and Kahaku runs over to Momo quickly. Alright class, today we are going off school grounds to do training. Izawa says. What type of training? Mina asks. Izawa then pulls out a card with rescue written on it. Please change into your hero costumes and meet me outside. Izawa says as he pushes the button and the cases holding the costumes come out. After changing. Class 1 is currently outside with Izawa and is currently waiting for the bus to show up. A few minutes later the bus arrives. Alright everyone, once we get inside find an empty seat and sit down in it so we can depart as soon as possible. Izuku says. Got it. Wana says in unison. They all climb in and get on the bus and take their seats. As soon as everyone is seated, the bus driver drives off to the USJ. Izuku stares out the window on the way there. Why can't I shake this feeling? Well, if anything happens, I need to get Kahaku to take Momo and Eri back to the manor. Maybe I should send Jiro, just in case. I have to follow the last stand protocol. Izuku thinks to himself. Zuzu, you okay? Momo asks, a little worried. Yeah, I'm fine, just thinking, that's all. Izuku says. You sure? Momo asks, getting the feeling that he is hiding something. Yes Momo, I'm fine. Izuku says and smiles. Aizawa notices the look on Izuku's face. He must feel something is wrong. I guess I should keep my guard up. His skills as a bodyguard are extraordinary, Aizawa thinks to himself. After a few minutes of traveling on the road, they reach the building that they will be doing the rescue training at. Alright everyone, get off the bus, we are here. Aizawa says. Once Izuku is off the bus, he walks over to Jiro and Bakugo. Hey guys, I need to talk to you for a second. Izuku says. They walk a small distance away from everyone else. Look, I have a feeling that something bad is going to happen. Izuku says and looks at the class and building. Really, like what? Bakugo says. I don't know, but Jiro, I might have to initiate the final stand protocol. Izuku says. Jiro looks at him shocked. Izuku, are you mad? She yells at him in a low voice. What's the final stand protocol? Bakugo asks. It's basically what it sounds like. I will make a final stand to protect Momo, and it would cost me my life. Izuku says. Bakugo looks shocked. Izuku, are you mad? You just got with her. He says. You don't think I know that? I need you to help Jiro get her and Eri out of here, just in case she is the love of my life and I won't be able to live with myself if something were to happen to her. Izuku says. Fine, but I don't like it. Bakugo says. Me either, Momo will be extremely angry at all of us. Jiro says. Izuku sighs. I know, let's go back to the class. Izuku says, and they walk back to the class just as 13 comes out of the building. It's the Space Hero 13. Uraraka says. Hello, and welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. I built this place to train students in different environments for rescues. 13 says. No, let's get inside so we can start on the training. 13 says. The class walks in, and they stop at the top of stairs. There are 5 to 6 different zones for you to train in. We will split you up into groups and assign you to different zones. 13 says. Izuku looks at the fountain in the central plaza. So I was right, but deep down I wish I wasn't, Izuku thinks to himself as a purple portal appears and villains start to walk out of it. Hey, look everyone, they even got fake villains. Ijiro says and points to the center of the facility. Everyone looks at where Ijiro is pointing at. Cool, we get to fight. Mina says. Those aren't fake villains, those are real villains. Aizawa says and puts his goggles over his eyes and gets ready for a fight. The students soon tense up. Those are real villains. Denki says. Yes, stay back, Denki, try and get a message to UA. 13 protect the students. Aizawa yells and is about to jump down. Aizawa-sensei, wait, I'll help you out. Izuku says and walks out. Izuku, what are you thinking? Momo yells. Izuku turns and bows to her. It's been an honor serving you and the Aoi Rozu family, Lady Aphrodite. Izuku says. Momo gets a shocked look on her face, knowing exactly what he just did. Izuku, don't, she gets cut off when she is soon knocked out by a stative. Kahaku, transform and get Momo and Eri back to the manor. Izuku says and starts to walk to the edge of the stairs. Yes master. Kahaku says and transforms into her big form. What the hell? Wana yells. Jiro with the help of Bakugo gets Momo and Eri on top and Jiro climbs on. I can't get a message through. Denki says. Damn it. Aizawa and Izuku speak in unison. Iida, run to UA and get help. Kahaku, go now. Izuku yells. Got it. Iida and Kahaku yell in unison and are about to run out, but then a purple mist appears in front of them. Hello UA, I'm afraid I can't let you leave, my name is Kurogiri. Kurogiri says. Soon his metal collar is grabbed by a green spirit claw and held back. Go now. Izuku yells. Iida and Kahaku run out. Izuku starts to spin Kurogiri around. Let me go, you brat. Kurogiri says. Okay, missed bitch. Izuku jumps up and then slams Kurogiri into the floor, knocking him and some villains caught in the shockwave out. Eraserhead, you and I can hold them back while 13 keeps the others safe. Izuku says and jumps down to face off with the villains. Aizawa jumps down and joins him. Well, to be honest, I was hoping you would join me. Aizawa says. Izuku smiles and looks at a guy with hands on his body. Yo, hand freak, call the others from around the area. Izuku says and Aizawa looks at him. That enhances the smell of yours is something. Aizawa says. Thanks, but like I said he has others around the whole facility. Izuku says. You're cocky aren't you? Fine then let's see you take us all on. The hand guy says and snaps his fingers and a wired bird looking thing roars and soon more villains appear. This will be fun. Izuku says and moves his arm back and forth and sends a wave of spiritual energy towards a group of villains and sends them crashing into some trees and knocking them out. The hand villain growls, all of you kill him, then the hero, and finally all the kids that would get All Might to show up. The hand villain says. You angle with a shotgun by the cab. The villains start to charge at Izuku and Izuku smiles sadistically under his mask. Izuku makes a spirit sword and rushes them and starts to slash some villains making them fall over and hold their wounds as blood flows out of them making a small river of blood. He then makes it disappear and then grows claws and the tip of his fingers and starts to fight villains in hand-to-hand combat. He grabs one villain and picks him up and slams him onto the ground. He then picks up two villains by their throats and tosses them into some others. What the hell is up with this kid, he's taking us out like we're nothing. A random female villain says. Izuku continues to take out villains by breaking bones, slamming them into others, or just knocking them out. He soon leaves many villains on the ground groaning in pain. Midoriya, I need backup. Aizawa yells. On my way. Izuku yells and runs over to him. Back with 1A. Holy shit, Midoriya took all those guys out like it was nothing. Shoji says. I know right, he's just on a whole different level than us. Sato says and looks down at the villains that are incapacitated. Katsuki looks over at the villains and growls, we should be down there helping them out. He yells. No. 13 yells and the one looks at the hero. And why not? Bakugo yells. Do any of you have real-life combat experience with villains? Or how to work in a team to make up for the other person's drawbacks? 13 asks. No, but we can, Fumikage starts to say, but is cut off by 13. All of them will just get in the way and be liabilities instead of assistants. 13 says. The only reason Eraserhead let your classmate fight is due to his job as a bodyguard and all the training he has received. 13 say. Katsuki just growls and looks back down at the battle. 13 is right, as much as I hate to admit it, we have to stay out of the way. He says and gets shocked looks from 1A. He looks over at Shoto and sees that he might be planning something. Back with Izuku and Aizawa. We almost have them. Aizawa says, trying to catch his breath. Mr. Aizawa, fall back a little and try to catch your breath. Izuku says. No way I'm not. Aizawa gets cut off by Izuku. Listen to me, you're a long-range fighter, I'm an all-rounder, so just do it, I can handle myself. Izuku said. Fine, but I'll jump back in if I feel you are about to get overwhelmed. Aizawa says. Deal. Izuku says and then grabs a villain with a mutation quirk by his leg and sends him flying to the wired bird thing that just stands there and is hit. I haven't joined the battle or tried to dodge, what the hell? Izuku thinks to himself. Izuku then grabs two villains with his chained paws and starts to spin them around, knocking down some villains in the process. He lets them go and they fly to the other end of the USJ. Well, look like we are down to just you freak show, the final boss. Izuku says and cracks his knuckles. The man with the hand starts laughing uncontrollably. Okay, what a funny hand job. Izuku asks as he stops a few feet away from the man. Okay, first of all my name is Tamura Shigaraki. Tamura says. Okay Tamura, what's so funny? Izuku asks. The fact that you think I'm the final boss. Tamura says. You're the only one still standing, creep, so it must be you, I mean who else is there? Izuku asks, a little confused. Him. Tamura says and snaps his fingers. All of a sudden a roar is heard and giant footsteps shake the facility. What the hell is that? Izuku says and turns to see the giant bird thing charging at him. What the hell, that thing was knocked out. Izuku shouts and tries to dodge but is met with a giant fist that sends him flying to a nearby wall. Izuku Midoriya. Bakugo, 1A and Aizawa scream in unison. Meet Nomu, he's the final boss. Tamura says. Izuku manages to pry himself from the wall and deactivates his mask to spit out some blood. Izuku, that was a powerful hit, I'm having trouble healing you. Koro says in Izuku's mindscape, yeah I noticed, just try your best, we need to hold this thing off until the teachers arrive. Izuku replies. Mr. Aizawa, I'll handle Nomu, you take care of Tamura. Izuku says and activates Ofa and Spirit at the same time. Are you mad Midoriya, there's no way you can handle that thing by yourself, I'm helping you out. Aizawa screams at Izuku. Izuku charges at the Nomu and lands an uppercut at 30% on the Nomu's jaw but is shocked when it doesn't move. What the hell? Izuku yells and gets a safe distance away. But we haven't seen that guy fight, who knows what quirk he has. Izuku says and gets ready for another attack. That may be true, but 13 can handle him. Aizawa says. Fine, I guess your quirk could come in useful. Izuku says. Izuku and Aizawa rush the Nomu. Izuku lands back-to-back spirit and Ofa infuses punches at 50% on the Nomu while Aizawa holds it back with his capture gear and tries to use his quirk to try and erase the Nomus. What's wrong, heroes having a hard time? Tell you what, I let you in on a little secret. Tamura says. Really, and what would that be? Izuku, that's it, we are going down there. Bakugo yells. No, stay back all of you, I can handle it. Shoji, get ready to catch Aizawa sensei. Izuku yells and gets up. He grabs the unconscious Aizawa and tosses him over to the class. Catch. Izuku yells and Shoji is able to catch Aizawa. Got him, Midoriya, now beat the shit out of that thing. Shoji says. You got it, Shoji. Izuku yells and charges at Nomu. Before he reaches it, he jumps into the air and starts to spin with his hand out in front of him, spinning tiger corkscrew. Izuku yells as green spiritual energy and lighting appears around him as he spins. He hits the Nomu head on and comes out the other side and the Nomu drops to the ground. So much for your final boss. Izuku says and starts to walk over to Tamura. I think you should check again. Tamura says and points to Nomu getting up. What the hell, you said his quirk was shock absorption. Izuku says in shock as he looks at Nomu getting up. No, I said that it was one of his quirks. Tamura says. One, how many does he have? Izuku asks. It's a surprise, now Nomu kill him. Tamura shouts. Nomu roars and charges at Izuku, landing a hard hit on his chest. Izuku coughs out blood and hits a tree hard. Fuck, that hurt, I think some of ribs are broken. Izuku says. Yeah, half of them. Koro says. Fuck, Koro, try and heal me as best as you can, this thing can't get to the others, it will rip them to shreds. Izuku says and gets up slowly and then charges at Nomu and starts to punch him repeatedly without stopping. Hey brat, weren't you listening? You can hurt him. Tamura says while laughing. Are you sure about that? Izuku asks with a smirk as Nomu starts to cry out in pain. What, how, that's impossible. Tamura says. I guess sending spit energy into Nomu to attack his cells from the inside was a good idea. Izuku thinks to himself. Tamura starts to scratch his neck vigorously. No, 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 he was made to kill All Might, how are you doing this? Tamura says. Sorry, that's a secret. Izuku says and is about to land a final punch on the Nomu when it grabs his arm and crushes it and an ungodly crunch is heard in the USJ. Izuku yells at the top of his lungs and falls to his knees. Well, hero, looks like your time is up. Tamura says and smiles under the hand on his face. Nomu ripped off his arm. Tamura says sadistically. Nomu smiles and in one tug it rips off Izuku's arm. Izuku yells and grabs the place where his arm once was. No, I can't stop, now I have to bet on this thing, now. Izuku thinks to himself and starts to get up. He makes a fist with his remaining hand and starts to charge up his last attack. One tiger smash 1,000,000%. Izuku yells with all his might and lands a direct hit on the Nomu and sends it flying out of the USJ. Take that, you fucker. Izuku says as he flicks Tamura off before he passes out. At this moment Kurogiri regains consciousness and looks around. Tamura. Is all he says. Tamura looks at him and nods, a portal opens up and he starts to walk into it. He stops and looks at the students at the top of the stairs. This isn't over, we will have our revenge and kill All Might and him. He yells and points to an unconscious Izuku. As soon as he leaves, the doors of the USJ burst open. There's no need to fear, for All Might cuts himself off when he sees Izuku lying in a pool of his own blood. Young Midoriya. All Might yells and runs down the stairs. Vlad goes with All Might and helps the boy, Spine, Midnight help 13 evacuate the students, and the rest of you round up the villains. Nezu says Vlad King and other teachers nod and run off to do what they need to reach the two and starts to stop the bleeding from Izuku's missing arm. What the hell happened here? This boy is lucky to be alive, we have to get him to a hospital now, I don't know how long I can keep him from bleeding out. Vlad says to All Might. All Might nods and takes Izuku to one of the ambulances waiting outside. Vlad stays close by to keep him from bleeding out until the paramedics can apply a tourniquet. Earlier with Jiro, Kahaku, Eri, and a knocked out Momo. Kahaku, how much longer until we reach the manor? Jiro asks worriedly. Not much longer, Lady Jiro. Have you made contact with Lord Noritashi or Lady Ayako? Kahaku asks. No, I can't get through to them. Jiro says. Auntie Jiro, Kahaku, why is Mama asleep? Eri asks. Well, she is just very tired. Jiro says and pats her head. Oh okay. Eri says. Look, there's the manor. Kahaku says and starts to pick up speed. I hope that everyone is okay and that Izuku is not hurt, because I don't think Momo won't be able to handle it if something happens to him. Jiro thinks to herself. Currently Noritashi, Ayako, and Jack are about to get into the limo to head out to an important business meeting when all of a sudden they hear a roar and turn to the direction of it. Is that Kahaku? Ayako says. Yeah, and is that Momo? Noritashi asks. Open the gates. Jack yells, and the gates of the manor swing open and Kahaku runs in and stops in front of them. Mr. and Mrs. Yayoi Rozu, Izuku initiated the final stand protocol. Jiro says as she hands Eri to them. Noritashi and Ayako get shocked. What happened? Noritashi asks. Villains invaded the USJ. Jiro says as she hands Momo to Jack. Jiro jumps down and looks down at the floor. I was against it, but I know that Izuku would rather sacrifice his own life than watch Momo get hurt. Jiro says. All of a sudden Kahaku collapses on the ground. Master? Is all she says before reverting to her small form and becoming unconscious. Something must have happened to Izuku. Jiro says while picking Kahaku up. What happened to Daddy? Eri asks and starts crying. Let's get inside. Jack takes Momo to her room, Jiro goes with him and sets Kahaku down in there too. If something did happen they will need each other once they find out. Ayako says. Everyone walks inside, Momo and Kahaku are set down in her room, Ayako is trying to calm Eri and Noritashi is currently on the phone with the school. After 3 minutes he hangs up the phone with a look of worry and sadness on his face. Nori, what's wrong? What did they say? Ayako asks. Izuku is in the hospital. Noritashi says and tears start to steam down his face. What? Ayako asks with her eyes filled with tears. Jiro has a hand on her mouth and is crying. Eri hears what Noritashi says and starts to cry hysterically. Momo Yayoi Rozu is currently running down the halls of UA to get to her classroom with a mixed look of worry and anger on her face. Zuzu, please be alright because I have a bone to pick with you. Momo thinks to herself. She stops in front of the giant door that reads 1A and slides it open with all her might, making a loud bang. Everyone turns their attention to her. Where's Zuzu? Momo asks and they immediately look away, unable to face her except for one person who can't help but smile inwardly. Someone please say something. Momo yells in desperation. Jiro stands up and makes her way to Momo to try and tell her the news. Momo, Izuku, Jiro starts to say but can't finish the sentence because she can't find a way to tell her. Zuzu's what? Jiro, please tell me. Momo says and grabs her friend's shoulders. Bakugo gets up and walks over to them. What Jiro is trying to say is that Izuku. Bakugo starts to say but cuts himself off because he can't bring himself to tell her the news. Bakugo, Jiro, anyone please tell me, where's Zuzu? Why aren't any of you saying anything? Momo says her voice is starting to crack. What those two are trying to say is that your dog is dead. Shoto says with a smug look on his face. What did you say? Momo asks as tears start to form in her eyes. I said that your pathetic excuse of a boyfriend is dead. Shoto says, aging with a smile on his face. Now, you're lying. Jiro, please tell me he's lying. Momo says as she is struggling to hold back tears. Jiro just looks at Momo with a mournful expression. He's telling the truth. Izuku is dead. Jiro says. Momo's eyes widen in shock and she feels her knees give out and tears start to stream down her face. No, no, no. She yells and says she cries. The rest of the class except for Shoto start to cry as well. Even though they have only known Izuku for a short period of time, they feel like they have just lost a person they knew since the day they were born. Finally, he's gone, now nothing will stand in my way of making Momo mine. Shoto thinks to himself and laughs inwardly. No. Momo yells and shot straight up from her bed and starts breathing heavily and looks around to see where she's at. I'm in my room, how did I get here? Thank goodness it was just a dream. I need to find out what happened to my class and my Zuzu. Momo asks herself and gets up from her bed and she notices that she is still in her hero costume. But first I need to change. Momo says and takes off her costume and puts on a bra, panties, gray pants, a red shirt and red shoes. Once she finishes changing she walks out of her and Izuku's shared room and starts to look around for him. Why can't I find Zuzu? And why is everyone acting so weird? I should try and find mother and father and ask them. Momo thinks to herself and walks to her parents' room. Once she reaches their room she knocks on the door. Mother, father, it's me that I enter. Momo asks. Before Noritashi answers, he and Ayako take a moment to compose themselves. Yes, Momo, you may enter. Noritashi says. Momo walks in and gets a smile on her face when she sees Eri hugging Kahaku in her sleep, but then she gets serious and sits in one of the chairs in her parents' room. I'm sure by now you heard what happened at the USJ. Momo says and gets a nod from her parents. Good, saves me the trouble of having to explain everything. I have one question. Where is Zuzu? Momo asks, and the temperature in the room drops, and her parents remain silent for a while. Ayako takes a deep breath before answering the question. Momo, what I'm about to tell you will probably break your heart, so please prepare yourself. Ayako says. What do you mean, mother? Momo asks, confused. Momo, Izuku was severely wounded in the attack, he is in the hospital. Ayako says, and looks at Momo, who isn't saying anything, and just has tears forming in her eyes, and they are starting to overflow, and stream down her face. What? Momo says, as the realization finally hits her like one of Bakugo's explosions. I said Izuku is in the hospital. Ayako repeats herself, still not believing it herself. I have to go and see him, we all do. Momo says, and gets up from the chair she's sitting at, and quickly opens the door of her parents' room, and runs downstairs. Time skip, Yaoi Orizu's arrival to the hospital. As soon as the limo stops in front of the hospital, Momo grabs Eri, opens the door, and runs inside. Momo waited for us. Noritashi calls out and says he, Ayako, and Jack run after her. Momo stops at the receptionist's desk. Excuse me, miss, can you tell me what room Izuku Midoriya is in? Momo asks the receptionist to look up from her work and looks at Momo and smiles. Of course ma'am, just give me a second to access the information, she says. Noritashi, Ayako, and Jack catch up to Momo and wait to get the information. The patient is in the ICU room 715. The receptionist says and hands each of them a visitor pass. Thank you miss. Momo says and runs off to the elevator and pushes the up button. Momo, you have to prepare yourself for what you will see. Noritashi says. I know my father, but I need to see him, hold him, and I won't let him go until he is the exact same way I left him before all of this happened. Momo says as she tries to stay strong for Eri. Scene change Izuku's hospital room. Momo opens the door to Izuku's room and stops in her tracks when she sees the state he is in. His head is bandaged, his neck is supported by a brace, his torso is heavily banged, and last, but not least his right arm is nowhere to be seen, he also has a tube in his mouth to help him breathe. Momo's eyes start to fill with tears and she places a hand over her mouth and starts to cry as she enters the room and sits in a chair that's next to the bed. Zuzu, please wake up. Momo says. As Noritashi, Ayako, and Jack enter the room they are silent as they see the horrible shape Izuku is in. Momo, is that you? Koro says as the necklace starts to glow. Yes, Koro. Momo says. I want to let you know that Izuku will be okay, all of the healing energy is focused on healing his broken ribs and one punctured lung, his arm is another story. Koro says. How long will it take for him to be back at 100%? Momo asks. I wouldn't say he would be 100% not without an arm. Koro says. Mommy, I can help daddy get his arm back. Eri says. How is Eri? Momo asks, confused. Like Quirk mommy, it's called rewind, I can bring back his body to how it was before. Eri says. And what's the drawback Eri? Jack asks. The drawback is that I will get a fever for a few days Uncle Jack. Eri says and Jack blushes at the uncle. Eri, as much as I would love to have your daddy feeling better today, I don't want you to get sick. Momo says. There might be a solution to it. Koro says. Really? Noritashi asks. Yes, if Eri only focuses on the arm, she might not get a fever, she might sleep for a few hours if I use half of the healing energy to help her. Koro says. Eri looks at Momo with pleading eyes. Please mommy, I want to help daddy. Eri says. Momo sighs, very well. Momo says. Eri puts her hands out and starts focusing her full power to try and get Izuku's arm back. While she is doing this Koro is sending half of the healing energy to help her. Within a few seconds, Momo and the others see an arm start to take shape. After about 5 minutes Izuku's arm is aging, but the scar of where his old arm was, making it look like he got a Frankenstein thing going on. Momo grabs Izuku's new arm and starts crying tears of joy. Thank you Eri, thank you Koro. Momo says and hugs Eri happily. You're welcome mommy, I'm tired I'm going to sleep now. Eri says and falls asleep in Momo's arms. Sleep Eri you deserve it. Momo says and kisses the child's head. Momo, with his arm back, Izuku should be at 100% by this weekend. Koro says. Thank you Koro. Momo says. You're quite welcome Momo, Koro says. Momo closes her eyes and lays her head on the bed and she has a flashback to the day Izuku got his bodyguard license. Flashback starts. Izuku has just returned from the bodyguard examination with his license, he passed all parts with flying colors and he was very excited. I can't believe I did it. I may have this license, but I need to do something to show the Yaoi Orizuses that I'm completely loyal to them. Izuku thinks to himself. I got it, I know exactly what to do. Izuku says to himself. He makes his way to the living room and sees Momo and her parents are there, so he walks in. I passed, also there's something I want to say to all of you. Izuku says. Congratulations Izuku, and what do you want to say to us? Momo says. I'm sure he was getting to that Momo. Ayako says. Izuku nods, and then he gets on both his knees and puts his arms out in front of him and bows to Momo and her parents. I Izuku Midoriya vow my complete and unwavering loyalty to Momo Yaoi Rozu and the Yaoi Rozu family. I promise to protect her and the family with all my might and if necessary give my life to keep them safe. This is my vow to her and the family, a vow that can only be broken by my death. Izuku says. End of flashback. Okay Mr. Midoriya, please sign here and your discharge will be complete. The nurse says as she hands the paperwork to Izuku. Izuku nods, grabs a pen and signs the paper. Here you go miss. Izuku says and hands her back the paper. Thank you very much, please take care of yourself. The nurse says. I will not worry. Have a good night. Izuku replies and starts to walk away. Once Izuku reaches the outside he's about to pull out his phone to call a cab when he hears his name being called. Izuku, over here. Noritashi says as he and Jack lean on the limo. Izuku looks over at Noritashi and walks over to them. Hello master, Jack Izuku says once he reaches them. Noritashi pinches the bridge of his nose and sighs. Izuku you don't have to call me master, you can call me dad. You are my daughter's lover after all. Noritashi says with a smile. Sure thing dad. Izuku says and stutters in embarrassment. Jack snickers a little, you can take on a whole horde of villains, but you get stuck on that word. Jack says laughing. Says the man that got saved by an 8-year-old. Izuku retorts with a smile. Shut up. Jack yells. Calm down you two and let's get back to the manor. Noritashi says as he steps into the limo. Izuku and Jack step in after him and Jack closes the door. So speaking of Momo, how is she doing? Izuku asks as the limo pulls away from the hospital. She's fine, been worried sick about you, but fine. Jack says. So did you tell her I was coming home today? Izuku asks and looks at Noritashi. No, I followed the instructions you texted me, well, except for the not to pick you up part. Noritashi says. Izuku nods and looks at his right arm and moves it around. I still can't believe I got my arm back. Izuku says. It caught us off guard too, we thought you were going to need a prosthetic. Jack continues to move his arm. Yuri's quirk sure is amazing. Izuku says with a smile and moves his sleeve up to where the scar is. I guess this is a reminder of how much harder I have to work. Izuku says as he traces the scar. You know this might sound weird, but I like the old arm better. Izuku says and lays his head back. Jack and Noritashi laugh at his comment. Don't let the young mistress hear you say that or she will rip you a new one. Noritashi says. She's still angry with me isn't she? Izuku asks with a slight sweat drop. You think that slap she gave you the other day was to say hello? Jack asks smugly. Let me guess you're speaking from experience. Izuku asks. Jack doesn't reply. I'll take that as a yes. Izuku says. You should be ready to pay the young mistress back for making her worry. Noritashi says. Izuku looks at him confused and a little scared. What do you mean by that? Izuku asks with a slight stutter. I mean she can break your wallet, she might have you buy her all sorts of things, or you know what never mind. Jack says. Or what Jack? Izuku asks and looks at Jack with a face of confusion and fear. Come on please tell me. Izuku says practically begging. Or she will ask you to take her out somewhere, the point is she will drain your wallet dry. Jack says. Mom, Dad if you can hear me, please save me. Izuku thinks to himself. Soon the limo pulls up in front of the manor. Well we are here, Izuku my boy I pray for you. Noritashi says and gets out of the limo. What? Izuku is scared. Izuku makes his way to Momo's room and knocks on the door. Coming. Momo calls out and opens the door and she is speechless when she sees Izuku standing there with a smile on his face. Hey, Momo, I'm home. Izuku says. Momo's eyes fill with tears and she slaps Izuku. You idiot why did you have to go and do that, I was so worried that I would never see you again. She says as she hits his chest. Izuku pulls her in for a hug. No, let me go, I'm angry with you. Momo says. Izuku continues to hold her and soon Momo starts to cry. After about 5 minutes she calms down. Zuzu, never do that again, please I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Momo says. Izuku kisses her forehead. Momo, I can't promise you that, I'll always protect you no matter what, but I'll promise I'll be more rational before jumping into a battle. Izuku says. I guess that's the closest thing you can offer huh, well I'll take it. And now you have to pay me back Zuzu. Momo coos. Izuku gulps in fear. What do you mean by that? Izuku says. Momo smirks and kisses Izuku. "You'll see," she says and pulls him into the room. And locks the door behind them. "Momo, where are Eri and Kahaku?" Izuku asks with some sweat drops. "They are with my parents," Momo says as she walks over to Izuku swaying her hips. "I know exactly how you're paying me back, Zuzu," Momo says and bites her lower lip. "We are going to make love all night long." Momo thinks to herself and licks her lips. "I see where this is going, she's going to regret this." Izuku thinks and smiles as Momo gets closer to him. He grabs her waist and pulls her closer to him and kisses her passionately. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Izuku asks with a smirk. "Of course, I'm sure I need you inside of me again, I miss it," Momo says. Izuku, Momo, and Kahaku are currently walking to Class 1A. "Zuzu, you could have healed back a little last night," Momo says as she is walking with a slight limp. Izuku smiles and kisses her cheek. "Well, you weren't complaining last night, you even said please don't stop daddy, fuck my brains out," Izuku says with a smirk and looks over at a blushing Momo. Once they reach the door and open it, everyone looks at Izuku and is shocked no more than Shoto. "God damn it, you're still alive," Shoto yells and walks over to Izuku and Momo is pissed off. "Yeah, I am sorry to disappoint you," Izuku says with a smirk. "Damn right I'm disappointed, I could have made Momo my girlfriend," Shoto says and growls. Soon a slap rings out across the room. "I will never be yours, you pig," Momo yells. "You insolent wench, I'll teach you your place," Shoto yells and is about to slap Momo when his arm is grabbed and he is pinned to the wall by Izuku. "Listen here, you piece of shit, don't even think of hurting my lady or I will rip you limb from limb myself," Izuku says and smiles sadistically with his teeth becoming sharper. "But be lucky I'm in a good mood. So go sit down and shut the fuck up," Izuku says as he kicks Shoto away from him. Izuku and Momo walk to their desk when they hear the door open to reveal Izawa walking in bandaged clothes. "Sup, mummy man?" Izuku and Kahaku speak in unison. "Midoriya, how are you here and your arm? I heard that it was ripped off," Izawa says, muffled. "One of my quirks, and Eri," Izuku says and walks over to Izawa. "Speaking of Eri, where is she?" Mina asks. "She will be coming later with my parents and Jack," Momo says with a smile as she sits down and picks up Kahaku. "I can speed up your healing if you want, Izawa-sensei," Izuku says. "Wait, since when could you do that?" Momo asks. "Just now, Koro just told me about it," Izuku says as he focuses spiritual energy into his hand. He then places his hand on Izawa's head and slowly releases it into Izawa's body. "There you go, your recovery time is cut in half," Izuku says with a smile as he walks back to his seat. "Zuzu, can you please use that on me? I don't want to be walking with a limp all day," Momo says. "Okay, come here," Izuku says and does the same thing he did to Izawa to Momo. "Now, as you all know, today is the sports festival, so I want each of you to go out there and do your best," Izawa says as he removes some of his bandages. "And if any of you do anything to embarrass me, I'll expel you on the spot," Izawa says with a creepy smile. "Now get out of here and go get changed," Izawa says. Scene change 1, a locker room. "Midoriya," Shoto yells and stomps over to Izuku, locking eyes with him. Izuku sighs heavily and rolls his eyes. "What do you want, Peppermint?" Izuku asks as he leans on the locker. "I just wanted to let you know that once I win the sports festival, Momo will be mine," Shoto says with a smile. Izuku scoffs and looks at Shoto with a smirk. "Bitch, didn't you hear my lady when she almost slapped that scar off your face, that she will never be yours?" Izuku says. "But I'll be more than happy to set you straight, the only reason you're all evil is because your daddy bet you like a dog," Izuku says. He gently slaps Shoto's face and walks out the door with Momo. "Hey Zuzu, I think you went overboard," Momo says. Izuku sighs a little and stops walking as he turns to face Momo. "I know, but that prick got on my nerves," Izuku says as he holds Momo's waist and leans in to kiss her. "Now, why don't we go see if we can find your parents, Eri and Jack?" Izuku says and Momo just nods as she holds Izuku's hand as they walk away. Time skip. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the UA Sports Festival," President Mick yells ecstatically. The crowd cheers and the stadium is filled with cheering and air horns going off. "I'm President Mick and with me is Eraserhead." "Wait, you were a mummy this morning, how are you healed?" Mick asks. "Oh, that's easy, the master healed him," Kahaku says as she walks over to Mick and sits down. "You know, I still can't get used to the fact that you can talk," Mick says and pets Kahaku's head. "Now everyone please help me in welcoming our participants. First we have Class 1 from the Hero Course, yes, the very same class that survived a villain attack due to the brave efforts of their teacher and class president," Mick says as Class 1 walks out waving at the fans. Next is Class 1B, also from the Hero course. Mick says. Why don't we get a hyped up intro? A random 1B student asks. And now for the rest of the first year classes. Mick says. Are we chopped liver? The other classes think at the same time. Now it's time to introduce the 1-year refier, the 18+ hero Midnight. Mick says, and then every male in the audience is cheering and whistling. Oh, thank you all for such a warm welcome. Now it's time for the freshman representative Izuku Midoriya. Midnight yells and smacks her whip on the floor. Izuku walks up to the stage and waves to the audience. Thank you all once again for coming to our annual sports festival. I'm not just a freshman representative, I'm also the Class 1A president. Anyways, enough about me and my class. You are all here to watch the future generations of heroes display their quirks, and I will assure you of this, that we will all try our best to give you an amazing show. Izuku says and gets cheers from the audience and the classes. Hold the fucking frog legs. A student from 1B yells and walks up to the stage. So you're the 1A president, I expected more, but I guess it explains a lot about your class of idiots. The student says. Please don't talk about my class that way, even though there are 2 idiots in it. Now what's your name? Izuku asks. I'm Monoma Nido, your superior in every way. Monoma says, laughing. If you were my so-called superior you would be in 1A and I would be in 1B, but I'm in 1A, so I guess I'm your superior. Izuku says and smiles. What did you say? You think you can beat me? Monoma asks angrily. I think this should answer your question. Mick-sensei, do you have the disc I gave you earlier? Izuku asks as he makes spirit clones. Yeah. Mick says. Good, now would you mind playing it? Izuku says. You got it, little listener. Mick says, and soon the song starts playing and the clones start to stomp their feet and clap their hands. Oh no. Momo thinks to herself. Izuku. Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday, you got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, sing it. Clones. We will rock you. We will rock you. Izuku. Buddy, you're a young man, hard man shouting in the street, gonna take on the world someday, you got blood on your face, you big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place. Clones. We will rock you. Izuku. Sing it. Clones. We will rock you. Izuku. Buddy, you're an old man, poor man pleading with your eyes, gonna get you some peace someday, you got mud on your face, big disgrace, somebody better put you back into your place. Clones. We will rock you. Izuku. Sing it. Clones. We will rock you. Izuku. Everybody. Class 1 except, we will rock you. We will rock you. Izuku. Alright. Izuku starts to stomp his feet and clap his hands to join his class. Izuku and 1 expect, we will rock you. We will rock you. So does that answer your question? Izuku asks once the song ends and stares at Monoma. Now that's how you start off a festival. Now let's see what the first event will be for our contestants. Midnight says and raises her whip in the air. The screen starts to shuffle in between events and then stops. It looks like our first event is an obstacle course. Midnight says. The audience erupts in excitement. Now, will all the participants move to the gate and wait for the signal to begin? Midnight says. Izuku and all the participants make their way to the gate and wait for the signal to begin. After a minute or two, Midnight moves her whip down and a crack is heard. In that instance, Todoroki freezes everyone in the tunnel except for his classmates. Izuku is currently on the roof of the tunnel, using his tiger claws to run on the roof. Well, the Ice Princess is pissed off, Izuku says as he leaps off the roof and starts to run. Soon some robots from the entrance exam pop out from nowhere. Izuku smiles and starts to glow green and has green lighting surrounding him. Flying Tiger Corkscrew. Izuku yells as he launches himself into the air and begins to spin. He rips through the robot and comes out the other side just as the robot blows up. Top that, Snow Queen. Izuku yells to Todoroki as he runs off laughing. Fuck you, Midoriya. Todoroki yells at the top of his lungs. He barely dodges a cannonball that is fired from a cannon that was made by Momo, who currently has a smile on her face. Oops, my bad, I didn't see you standing there, Momo says and runs off. Damn the both of you to hell. Todoroki yells at the top of his lungs, covers himself in ice, and runs off. Momo is currently laughing when she hears Todoroki yell at the heavens. Soon Mineta jumps towards Momo from out of nowhere. Finally, I can feel Yaoi Oriza soft and Midoriya is nowhere to be found. Mineta yells. Momo's face turns into one of horror as she sees Mineta getting closer to her. She closes her eyes and prepares for the worst. Learn your place, pervert. Izuku yells at the top of his lungs and kicks Mineta in the face, sending him flying into a group of students. Go do your peeping in hell. Izuku yells and laughs. Zuzu. Momo yells happily and hugs Izuku. Thank you for saving me, and I'll have to pay you back later tonight. Momo says and kisses Izuku passionately and runs off happily. Hey, get back here, Momo. Izuku yells and runs after Momo. He soon overtakes Momo, but not before spanking her ass hard. When Izuku reaches the mini canyon, Izuku looks around, trying to decide the best course of action to take for this part of the obstacle course. Think Izuku. Wait, I got it. Izuku yells and crouches down on all fours and says. Ancient tiger spirit, I summon you. Soon green spirit energy covers him and he grows claws. He then activates Ofa. Izuku takes off running and he leaps when he reaches the edge and lands on a rock. He continues to leap from rock to rock until he reaches the other end of the canyon. Well, that was fun. Izuku says as he gets up and starts to run towards the final obstacle in the minefield. Well, this seems like fun. Izuku says and starts to think of a way to cross the field. Well, I can always just jump it, but where's the fun in that? Izuku asks himself. I got it. Izuku says and jumps up into the air. He then comes crashing down in the middle of the minefield with Ofa and spirit activated at 100%. Soon, a massive explosion shakes the obstacle course. Whoa. Izuku shouts at the top of his lungs as he zooms past evening and zooms into the stadium. He lands on a wall with his claws as anchor points. Then Midoriya takes first place. Present Mick yells in excitement. Soon the crowd cheers. Izuku jumps off the wall and takes a bow. Nowhere come the rest of the participants, Aizawa says as he rubs his ears from the pain that Mick caused. Soon all the students cross the finish line. Izuku sees Momo cross the finish line and he gets a huge smile on his face, but it quickly turns to anger and disgust. Why am I so tired and why does it feel like I'm carrying an extra 40 pounds? Momo asks, panting heavily. Man, this is amazing, this is the best ride of my life. I'm in heaven. A voice says from behind Momo says. Momo grows wide-eyed and turns her head to her shoulder and what she sees terrified her. Mineta on her back with his hairballs on her for grip. Momo screams at the top of her lungs. Get off me. She yells. No way, Yaoi Rozu, I'm in heaven. Mineta says with a smile on his face. No, but in about a minute you're going to be in hell. Izuku snarls as both Ofa and Spirit are at 100%. His teeth become sharper, his fingernails grow more claw-like and his eyes start to glow green. Today is the day you die, pervert. Izuku says and roars at the end as he gets down on all fours and starts to run. Mineta pales and quickly gets off Momo and starts to run for his life. Someone help me. Mineta yells as Izuku coaches him around the stadium. Get back here and face me, coward. Izuku says as he runs after him. Izuku eventually catches him and picks him up. Mineta shivers uncontrollably as he gets picked up and pisses himself. Did you just piss yourself? Izuku asks as he sniffs Mineta and gets a nod in response. Last and final warning, pervert. Go do your peeping in hell. Izuku says and tosses Mineta out of the arena. Mineta lands in the third-year arena announcer's box window. Oh my, he really got on Midoriya's bad side today. Nezu thinks to himself as Mineta falls to the ground. Back in the first-year stadium. Well, that happened. Now ladies and gentlemen, our next event with our top 42 students will be Midnight says and stops as the screen flashes and then stops a cavalry battle. The students will be given points based on the placing. The 42nd student is worth 5 points. Every place has an incredible of 5 points, except for our 1 place student who has 10 million points. Midnight says. Soon all eyes are on Izuku. Izuku feels the glares from all the students except Momo on him. Izuku calmly jumps on the stage and faces the students. He activates Spirit and Ofa to 100% and gets down on all fours and looks at Momo, who covers her ears. Her parents, Jack and Eri, do the same in the stands. Izuku then lets out his 5 most powerful roars and most of the student body soils themselves. Bring it on. Izuku says and smiles sadistically. The end. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.